FNAF lore. Let's get into it. In 1983, two business partners, Henry Emily and William Afton, founded Fazbear Entertainment. They would open an animatronic pizza place known as Fredbear's Family Diner, with the main mascots of this place being Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, among others. One of Afton's kids was having a birthday party here, but there was one problem. He was scared of the robots here, but they're not the real danger. The real danger is the manager himself. There was one kid watching from the windows who was not invited. Afton pulls up, and no one had heard from the kid since. 4 others would go missing during this time as well. While this was happening, some kids convinced the child to get closer to Fredbear. And the main purpose of these robots is they sing on stage. So that became a problem when the kid got too close to his face. Anyway, remember that kid from earlier who wasn't invited? She figured out how to possess one of the robots that was in the back room of the place. And she guided the other 4 to do this as well. This was how they would exact their revenge. We'll get to that in a moment. Now on rehab, the one kid that got bit spent the following nights hallucinating about the robots from the establishment. But they didn't look as they normally did. They appeared as twisted versions of what he saw of them. Anyway, he would die shortly after, and also figure out how to possess one of the robots. So we'll get back to all of them in a moment. But fast forward a few years to 1987. They built a new location called Circus Baby's Pizza World in William Afton's basement. And he was also in charge of designing the new robots for this location. There were a few parts of the designs that were kind of concerning. Like how one of them was made to fit an entire child inside of it, and how one has a giant claw that comes out of it. So understandably, the other CEO was kind of concerned about all this. I'd like to go over some of the design choices that you went with. Some of them seem a little bit questionable. Alright then. Well, first off, this one is a built-in helium tank for pumping up balloons, and also dispenses ice cream, and is basically a walking iPod. Yeah, I wasn't really referring to that. I was mainly thinking of how it's a living stiletto. Pay no mind to that. William Afton had 2 other kids as well that I should probably mention. Elizabeth and Michael. Elizabeth, as expected, died to one of these things. And of course, she went on to possess the robot as well. Because, what did you expect? Michael, on the other hand, worked as a security and maintenance for the underground location. Everything was going smoothly until the 6th night on the job. He was led by the voice of Elizabeth. It was a combination of all the robots together, known as Ennard. A strange-looking room where he was disemboweled by a giant spoon, basically taking out all his insides and replacing them with Ennard itself. But this is where the timeline split off, as there was one universe where he actually went home and wasn't led to this room. Ennard appears in the front room. Anyway, now walking around in human flesh, the machine continued to act as normal, as Michael normally would. Even still attending his security job, Ennard would eject itself from Michael. Now you would think that Michael would die after this, But no, he just gets up and moves on like nothing had happened. Anyway, the location closed down soon after, but a new one opens shortly after, known as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. William wants to find this place, so he tasks Michael with locating the new location. He ends up finding it and goes in for the security job, with William in the back room. But little do they know, they fell right into the kids' trap, as the robots they possessed became the new mascots of this location, and we're now on a hunt down after them. Anyway, after a week, Michael got fired from the place, and it closed down. But then it reopened, with new animatronics created from salvaged parts from the old ones. Oh, and also the puppets actually incorporated into this location this time. She immediately begins blasting Johnny Cash. Anyway, the ghosts end up finding William, and they corner him. But he hides in an animatronic suit, so they won't know who he is. There's one problem. The suits were made to be worn by people, but they had a little something in them called spring locks. If the suit came into contact with water, it would compress and lock together, using coils, basically to waterproof the thing. And Afton got crunched inside the suit, and somehow, just like Michael, he ended up surviving this. Anyway, this place also closed down. I know, surprising, right? Understandably, the CEO doesn't really know what to do anymore. But then he has a really good idea. Hey everyone, wanna hunt for ghosts in an abandoned pizzeria? And so he made Freddy Fazbear's Pizza into a haunted house. And there were actually ghosts in this location. Ghosts of the children haunted the place. And this made this location immensely popular. But there was one problem. Afton was still lurking around. Although we don't know what caused it, the place later burned to the ground. Here's where two different endings emerge. Because in one ending, Springtrap dies, and all the kids move on to the afterlife with their mission fulfilled. But there was one ending where he cheated death a second time and somehow survived the fire. And since the revenge plot wasn't over yet, they stayed in the mortal world. Anyway, remember Ennard? Well, Elizabeth left Ennard, leaving Funtime Freddy in charge. And in an act of desperation, the CEO decided that he's no good at running these locations, so he just found some random guy off the streets to do it. William, Elizabeth, and Molten Freddy would, of course, go into hiding in this location. But what about the original 6? Well, there were no animatronics actually bought for the location yet, so they decided to send Charlotte to hide inside an animatronic and then get bought out by the company, which worked. This animatronic got bought out, and among a few others. Elizabeth and Charlotte decide to make an alliance because they hate Afton so much, so they were both on a mission to take him down. But then another fire happened, leaving Afton to burn inside.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
And with their victory finally attained, they decided to punish him in the afterlife. He created a simulation of a security office, and they all started to hunt him down. They made a roster of different versions of themselves, among other random robots from the different locations. But then one of the demons in charge of, building the thing was like, yeah, I'm done here, can we pack this thing up? And, they reluctantly agreed. Anyway, let's check in on the normal world. Hey everyone, remember all that stuff that went down at our locations? We made a VR game about it. And it was a huge success, except there was one problem. This game had a virus. And that virus was none other than William Afton from Beyond the Grave. Most people were understandably alarmed about this glitch, but Vanessa had a very different reaction.
I like him. Yeah, let's do whatever he says.
Anyway, shortly after, they would open yet another location. The biggest yet, it's an entire mall that's just Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Vanessa would meet up with an apparition of William at this location. And thus begins the revenge plot, round 2. To be continued.